When you apply for a job, always, always, always read the job description. There is, I think we all get caught in a trap that sometimes, like, I think even myself as a job seeker, when I was like finishing uni or still in uni, you'd apply for jobs and you're like, I think I could do this, but I don't meet this one criteria. But sometimes it's always just that one thing that talent acquisition people will go through and they'll be like, you're just wasting my time. And then they'll see your name. But very important to read the job description. Always tailor your cover letter to the job, because there's times when someone sends, and always double check your resume and your cover letter, because people will send you job applications with the wrong job title, which you know they're probably applying for 1,000 other jobs with the same title. Yeah, so yeah, I think always double check that, make sure you tailor that and read the job description is always a good advice for anyone who's applying for a job.
So aside from like, tailoring the wrong name altogether, which I'm pretty sure I've done that before, what other giveaway signs are there that people haven't actually adjusted their application accordingly?
Sometimes it's very much with the job criteria, because I think when you look in your CV and I guess the tasks that you put in with what jobs you've done previously in the past, try to tailor it to show your strengths for what you can bring into this new role. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. So, but then would they see, because, everyone can say, oh, they have so many different strengths. So how would they pick which strength is better to give an example of? Is it through that description, that job ad?
Through the job description, and just always check what they want as essential or desirable. I always think that's very important for when you're applying for any job. And then it's always just back up what you're saying and make sure you can show evidence of how you've done that. And if either it's a good cover letter that you write or included in your CV, because people pretty much just sift through for keywords sometimes. And in my previous role where I did recruitment, it was very much automated. The computer pretty much spits out the people who have certain criteria for you, and then that's who you actually look through. So
okay, so there's actually this like role of technology that actually helps screen. How does that actually work for you?
Yeah, and I think that's where the future in terms of talent acquisition is actually going. A lot of companies are trying to implement a lot of artificial intelligence to help them actually cut down on like human costs of actually sifting through the resume. So at the moment, a lot of artificial intelligence is picking up most of those keywords that I'm talking about. So if it talks about, I don't know, a certain program that you must have used, instead of saying have skills in Excel, instead of saying I have Microsoft Office experience, make sure you put in that keyword Excel, because it will go in and sift and be like, you meet 5 of these words in your CV or your resume. This is a person that you should be looking at. And sometimes it orders them in that order. So
oh, wow. That's cool. Like, you actually read my mind. That was going to be the next thing I was going to ask. But we'll get to that a little bit later in terms of where the industry you reckon is heading. But in terms of AI, the current industry right now, so you would definitely advise people to include those keywords, even though it may seem a bit redundant, right? Or assumed.
Yeah, definitely. I think you never assume anything. That's the biggest question, because you think the person who's reading your CV doesn't know you. The first thing that they're getting is your CV. So there's some things that, should be assumed. For example, if you've, I don't know, done an engineering degree, I should assume that you've done engineering, and there's some things in there, but you never assume.
Okay, awesome. So it's good to hear, like, on the other side of the curtain, I think I've definitely been in a place where when I was looking for casual work even, I've applied for over 50 jobs. Where am I only hearing back from a few? I was really fortunate. I ended up working quite a few casual jobs in my time in uni. But it's really good to hear that, the steps involved and the essential criteria that we really need to meet in order to get that interview process, instead of just ended up being disappointed or not hearing back.
Yeah, and that was a me thing, I think, too. When I was at uni, I think the same thing when you're like, I could do this job. I don't have to read this. Like, just get me that interview. And I always was a person who was like, if I can get my foot in the interview, surely then I can sell myself. But I think it's also about selling yourself at the previous step before the actual interview process. You don't want to just get something because it's there as well. So
yeah, no, it's good, because like, if you don't even get an interview, well, that's it. You don't get a choice. You don't get a chance.
Yeah.
So you might as well maximize your chance while you can, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty, that's cool. In terms of like the selection criteria itself, I've heard people say that, even if you don't meet all the essential criteria, still apply anyway. What's your take on that?
There's moments, I think, depending on the job, I think there's sometimes it's essential criteria and there's stuff that's desirable. I think with a lot of desirable criteria, there's sometimes I have worked for clients one time, like previously in my previous role, who would have unicorn list of essential criteria that they're looking for. You know that person doesn't exist. Then there's those moments where you're like, if you actually know industry and you're actually on top of the market and you know that, hey, I've done this for this many years, I've done like work experience internships or whatever in a certain industry, and I know no one who has all these things that they're looking at in this criteria. Like these are things that you either learn. I think then those moments I think apply, but sometimes you do get essential criteria and desirable criteria. If you don't meet all the desirable, that's just them saying this is what my unicorn would look like. But if you can do this, you could probably do that as well. So yeah, I think there's some jobs that you can apply for when you just meet some essential criteria, but
Okay, so generally speaking, hit all those essential criteria as a minimum.
as a minimum, and then
yeah.
it's kind of like get that many points for your A, and then if you want the A plus plus,
Yeah,
like,
get
that's
the
the extra.
desirable as
That's
well.
the extra work.
But
Yeah,
at the same time, make sure you're being honest, because like you can spot a unicorn when it when
you
it's
can spot a
bullcrap.
unicorn, and I think that's when like sometimes I've seen some people write in their CVs and talk about something that they say they can do, and then you go into interview and you describe me this process, and yeah, someone in my team did this, and yeah.
Okay. Oh,
So
that's
then
good
it's
to know.
then it's awkward for both of you because now you're like, okay, you're a nice person, but you lied.
So yeah.
So what else you gonna lie about?
Exactly. Okay, so really, like interviews is it like it's kind of a bit like dating, right?
Oh,
Where,
sorry.
where it's kind of like you not only are you looking for what they can bring, but you're trying to figure out like who they are as a person.
Yeah.
So like whether they align with the company values, whether they have the integrity to work, and whether you can really trust them to fit in with the team, right?
Yeah, it was very much so. When I did my previous, when I did my previous role last year, a lot of the times I did interviews, I do like 20 interviews, 25 interviews a month.
Wow.
So it's pretty much like speed dating. Like you have half an hour to kind of talk through these criteria. Not really like find out a little bit more about yourself and like your culture fit in the organization, but also I think also see how interested you are in the role and actually see if you'll last a long time, because some people are just there for the money and yeah, what motivates the people.
And that's you're basically you're acting the company's best interest, because the more that they turn over staff, the more it's going to cost them. So what you're really looking for is candidates that are going to stay there for the long term.